Man, Ronnie, it only serves the place right for you to introduce the place and where we're at, man.
We
for
are
this podcast.
Yeah, bro. I'm glad that you guys are here. Obviously, I've been asking for Vipul to come on for a long time because Vipul is the brain, and every time I get a chance to talk to him, I get some really good insight on the economy and where things are headed. And so I'm so happy that you're here, bro. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the invite.
Anytime. You're welcome back anytime. You can be here every week if you'd like. We'd like to make you just a staple here in the podcast, please. We are at my house, and so I'm a little nervous because, I mean, it's my house.
It's a beautiful house.
Thank you. And so I'm sharing my home with everybody. And so I'm happy you're here too, bro. Obviously, it's we're always here together.
Yeah.
And so I love having you on, and thank you for coming to the house, bro. You hadn't been here yet.
No, and thank you for Ronnie's always been like, hey, we got to do it, and one of the podcasts that we've been working hard on getting live for everybody is one with Vipul. It took a couple of rounds of Vipul whooping my butt in golf for him to finally say yes. He definitely doesn't take it easy, but one of the things that Ronnie's always emphasized in is trying to get the right people and the proper information out to the public. And when we got this man to come in here and just have some conversation with us, it only served it right that we did it at a very special house. When I walked in here, I was like, damn, I'm in a resort.
Thank you, bro. That's cool. I built this house, so like just a quick little history on the house. The people that know me well, that know me closely, know that I've been moving around quite a bit, and so we wanted to. My daughter's she's a freshman. Well, she was a freshman last year when we started the house, and she's now in her sophomore year, and I think she's tired of moving. So we designed a house that was catered towards her and, making her comfortable for the next 3 years until she goes away to college. And so this is the product that came out from that. The name of the house is L.
It's pretty nice. You should be happy with it.
Yes. I hope so, baby. I hope so. But I will say that we just talked about building a podcast room.
Yeah.
So we may move, but it'll be a slight move into another lot here at Brentwood. So baby, I hope you don't mind. It might be just a slight move.
Is the house what inspired the house? You said your daughter inspired the house. So what was it about your daughter that you were like, I'm gonna make it like this, the colors, and it's peace.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that because obviously if you guys have seen some of the work that we've done and been doing, it's a little darker, especially the houses that I've lived in.
Yeah, the other one was a little darker, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to change it up, right? Because I had gotten a lot of feedback from people and customers that come by and check out the model and check out my home and so it's a little masculine. People that know me know I'm divorced. I'm a single dad, and so I tend to design stuff that's catered towards me, and selfishly. And so I obviously, if I want my daughter to be comfortable here for the next 3 years, I needed to design something that was a little more feminine, a little lighter, and so this is what we came up with. And
is she in college?
She's in high school. She's a sophomore in high school. She's doing great. She's in mariachi. She's doing band as well. She plays the clarinet. Nice. She plays the violin in mariachi.
She's a woodwind. Right?
She's a woodwind. Yeah,
that's what they call it.
Yeah, that's and cool. So I got her for the next 3 years.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this house is beautiful, bro. Like,
thank you.
It's another. Like I said, I was like, I'm in a resort right now.
Yeah,
it sure looks like it.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
it really is.
Thank you. We had a reveal not too long ago, and that went really well. And so, dude, we're proud of what we do, man. I really love what I do, and so we'd like to show it off.
I unfortunately couldn't make it my daughter had COVID at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came back from Cabo. Shout out to the Mats guys. They when we were out there
They
with that
took us
little
out
trip.
there, yeah.
Yes, sir. And I was actually having this conversation this morning with someone that I had noticed that when we were in the airport, when we had different flights because we went on different days. But when we were at the airport, I had noticed that there was a lot of people coughing.
Yeah.
And I'm real anal when it comes to people coughing, especially people that don't cover their mouth. I mean, if I cough, I even go to the extent to cover my mouth with my shirt. Yeah. And I noticed that where we weren't like in the general area when we were waiting for our flights. We were in I don't know, some lobby there with whatever airline we were in. They were like, "Oh, you have the points. We're gonna put you in this lobby." And there was probably about 100 people, maybe 120. I don't know, but there's a lot of people coughing. And as soon as I noticed that, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna get sick." And dicho hecho, my girl got COVID. She had COVID right as soon as we came back from Cabo, and then the baby got COVID, and then boom, I got COVID.
Yeah. It was going around, bro. There was a lot of people getting COVID. I think I got COVID. I didn't even check, but I think I got it too.
As long as you don't have it right now, you're okay.
No, I'm good right now. Vipul, you're good, bro. We're good.
Vipul's like, well, I already shook your hand and I gave you a hug. That's funny. That's funny. Vipul,
Yes, sir.
what's up with you, man?
All good.
So he kicked your ass in golf? Is that what I heard?
Dude.
That's not true. We don't bet.
I learned my lesson.
He's modest. He's modest, but I've heard he has a really great golf game.
Oh, my God. I remember the first time we went golfing. We went golfing in Monte Cristo, and you were getting ready for that tournament with Bart and his wife, remember?
Right.
And I showed up, and I don't know why I even asked this. I was like, what are we playing? Are we playing blue tees? And people was like, you're that good. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like, no. And we played the blue tees, and that day he gave me some advice. He was like, I'm gonna give you some advice, because he was tearing it up. And he was like, if you want to improve your game, I'd play from the white tees so you can improve your confidence.
Yeah.
And you'll have more fun. And ever since then, I've been playing white tees.
Really?
I don't play blue tees anymore. And then when I have friends that want to go play golf and they're like, hey, we're going to play the blue tees. I'm like, bro, but you're not good.
Yeah, but you said
I'm like, dude. And now I'm
Why?
over here like, don't do that. You're going to make it a horrible experience for yourself, But that was my first interaction. I was like, oh, and then now I consider him a friend.
Yeah. No, golf is a game that you should be out there enjoying. Many people don't have the game, including myself, to play the longer tees.
Yeah.
But machismo kicks in at times and say, yeah, I could bomb the ball 300 yards.
Slightly here in the valley, right? There's a little bit of that.
So I think you probably are enjoying the game more now, playing from the whites. It's a more, I guess, relaxed outing versus trying to hit the ball, especially when it's windy. It's always windy here in the valley. So
How long have you been playing the game?
I started in 2008.
Okay.
So I moved to the valley in 2006. I grew up playing cricket, but back then in the valley nobody played cricket. So for 2 years I did nothing. And then my brother-in-law, he one day said, why don't you try out golf? And I'm like, I don't know anything about it. I didn't even understand it when I would see it on TV because it's all reversed. Minus is a good thing versus in every other sport.
That guy's doing terrible. He's a negative.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't even understand that. Why would I try it? Whatnot. He took me to a range and then he said, hit this ball. He gave me a pitching wedge. I hit it and he's like, wow, hit it again. And I'm like, am I doing bad? Because I didn't know how far he was supposed to go, how high he was supposed to go. And he's like, those are pretty amazing shots. And I'm like, really? I thought he was just joking when he said that. And I'm like, yeah. It's very similar to cricket. I don't know if you have watched cricket.
I was about to ask, is it similar in the way that you're swinging?
Yeah, the stance is very similar. So about 80% of the swing is similar. Obviously, you hit the ball in cricket anywhere in the ground. Here, you just go straight.
Okay.
Hopefully straight.
Right. We're praying.
Yeah. So
You're giving us too much credit, bro. I don't think I hit anything straight, bro.
But the stance is very similar. The swing is very similar. So that's how I got into golf, and I got hooked. ever since then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I enjoy it. That's one of the few games that I play. And I think that's one of the few games you can play up into when you're 70, 75 years old,
Yep.
competitively.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
You-
one of the few games.
Having an analytical mind like you do, that I know you do, does it help your golf game?
It does. So if you understand the game, how it should be scored, like most people would not know what the handicap index is, what that means, how it's calculated.
Right.
So-
They hear that. I'm like, I'm not handicapped. Like,
Yeah. So
no.
that's another thing. When
What's your handicap? Oh, I'm not a handicap. Like, no. Like,
What did you call me?
no. What's your handicap? And it's like, oh, this guy doesn't know what's going on. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I try to learn from the grounds up as far as the game is concerned. What is it trying to tell you? And of course, that helps you analyze and say, this is what's going to help me improve the game. If I save a stroke here, save a stroke there, what's a course handicap? What's a slope? Those are things that people that play golf probably don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
But they should, because Mario spoke about speaking from the white tees. Playing white tees here in the valley is not the same thing as playing white tees in San Antonio. Why? Because they have more undulation. So the slope rating of the course comes into play. So when you're selecting the course, you say, okay, how high is the slope rating? And then you adjust the tee or the distance you play based on that. Because white here might be different over there.
Sure.
Yeah, there might be like the blue here.
Correct.
Because I noticed that when I was in Cabo and I went to go play out there, and I remember I was sending you pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
And I get paired with this random guy. He was a software engineer that has already retired, and all he's doing right now is just traveling. His wife was telling me, was like with my girl. It was pretty cool because I was supposed to play by myself. Remember?
Was that the guy that the couple that I met, or that was completely different from? Remember the couple that we met when we went downstairs? We were at the bar.
No, that was completely different.
Different?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, sir.
all right.
No, these people weren't even staying at the Hard Rock.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it was pretty cool because we get there and I was supposed to play the 18 holes. My girl was right along, and it was just gonna be me and her and I, right? And we were supposed to go play, and it's just a different level too.
Yeah.
You get there and they're like, Señor Guerrero, and we already have your bag. Oh, okay, you're gonna go in there, dude. I came out, bro, and these people had washed my shoes, washed my bag, washed my golf clubs.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience.
I was like, what is going on? Like,
That's
I was
beautiful.
like, it was different, right? And then so the guy goes, there's another solo player that I'm gonna send to the back nine before he comes to the front. If you guys pair up, I'll put you guys in hole one. And I was like, yeah, let's do it, yeah. That guy goes, what do you want to play, man? You want to play blues or you want to play white? And I was like, no, I want to play white. I'm trying to enjoy the course, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what you just mentioned because I hadn't played a course where if we're hitting here and you're looking at the ground in the valley, everything is straight. There are Lagos, everything is straight. There's no slope going down, right? You were hitting, bro, and the ball obviously is going up, but the ground is going in a slope. So the illusion that you're getting when you're hitting these balls, I remember the first tee, I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is wild. Like,
I don't
I'm
know if you guys
amazing.
know about this, but average slope rating in the United States is 113.
Okay.
Los Lagos is 126. So Los Lagos has a little bit more undulation compared to the average courses in the United States. Probably the one you played is probably 130, 140 slope rating.
okay.
So that makes it more difficult.
Well, was
there-
up in the mountains?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
because what they're doing right now in Cabo, the PGA bought a lot of land out there, and they're developing golf course after golf course, and they're developing really nice homes too.
Yeah.
And they're selling these houses out there. They're basically like little Mediterranean villas. I don't know
Yeah.
how to describe
Yeah.
them, right? And they bought. So Tiger Woods purchased most of all that land.
Diamante, he developed that Diamante golf course.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. So I think they're catering to the rich Californians
Yes.
that eventually would want to retire,
Yep.
stay on the oceanfront properties.
Yes, sir.
So Cabos offers that. and obviously it's warmer compared to where they're probably from.
Well, you know what one of the locals told me there? One of the days that we were out there, I want to say it was the last day that we were out there, and everyone had already came back from the Mats trip. And I wanted to go explore, and I was like, I need some tacos. Like, the Mexican in me was coming out. I was like, I need some tacos. And my girl was like, well, let's ask to see what's going on, whatever. So we find someone, and we take this ride. We find someone that had pointed us in the direction to go eat, and we take this ride. And the guy that was actually giving us the ride to into the city was telling me that the Chinese government had purchased a lot of the land there, and that they're about to establish a base there.
Mm.
And he was saying that a lot of the people from California are having trouble purchasing the houses now because the land, they have to do with like, so all that land is indigenous land. Like it's basically owned by people that, you know, they're still Indian descent. So they're buying this land for like pennies at the dollar, man. And the Chinese government went in there and bought a lot of land. They're in Cabo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Because the Mexican government is not like the United States government. Like, you're going to buy this, we'll sell it to you. Yeah. So the guy was explaining it to us that they were going to build a base and all this stuff. And now they have Russians, where the Russians are trying to buy a land there too. And they're also trying to build a base there. So he says
I'm trying to build a little house there.
That's great. Dude, it's beautiful,
I want my
bro.
little base there.
It's beautiful.
It was gorgeous. If you haven't been to Cabo, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
The
amazing.
weather's super nice. Dry, ocean, desert,
mountains.
breeze, mountains,
Yeah,
beautiful,
cliffs.
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, highly recommend. Anybody hasn't been to Cabo, go check it out. Mats, thank you guys for taking
Yeah.
us out.
Thank you, Isaac,
Yeah, appreciate that.
for the invite. So, Vipul, what is it that you do for Lone Star?
Lone Star National Bank, I have been with them for going on 19 years now.
It's a long time,
Damn.
brother.
Yeah, so
It's a long time. That says a lot. That says a lot about you, and it says a lot about Lone Star.
yeah, so
It's 19
it's
years,
an
bro.
Amazing institution to work for. Couldn't have asked for a better place. I moved to the Valley because I got a job with Lone Star National Bank. I was in Florida before. I graduated from Florida State University, and I was working for a much bigger bank over there. And I interviewed here because my wife's family has been in the Valley for 40 plus years. So I came down, had never been down, and talked to the CEO at the time, and we chatted, and we both liked each other quite a bit. And he said, you know what, I think we can find you a job over here, and just give me some time. And I said, sure. And he called me to come down. So ever since I have been here, as far as what I do for the bank, I manage the bank's investment portfolio, which is about $1 billion right now in bonds. I manage the bank's public funds department also. So we bank municipalities, school districts, counties, cities. That's about another $800 million right now, and help the bank manage the asset liabilities of the balance sheet. So different things wear different hats,
Yeah.
but
Is that are you doing the same thing here that you were doing in Florida?
something different. So in Florida, I was more customer facing. So it was a good thing that I did that, because now we come up with strategies. I know how it's going to be received or should be received by the sales staff, because if you don't have the notion, you might come out with a great strategy, but then if it doesn't get implemented
Right.
or put in practice, or if it's hard for the front personnel to implement that, it wouldn't work.
Or understand it.
Correct. So I think it worked out very well, and I wish I would have started as a teller. That's
Yeah,
the only
really.
thing, I mean, I didn't get to experience. I do have conceptual knowledge about it, but not practical. I haven't done it myself. But I started from being a personal banker, and then I went into management, and over time, obviously, have seen different aspects of banking, and have been through quite a bit. As you remember, 2008, we had the depression,
It's crazy.
and it was pretty painful for the banks. We had something similar last year. Rates went up 500 basis points or 5 percentage points, and many banks were not prepared for that. So obviously a lot has taken place in the banking world. But yeah, I've been with the bank for 19 years and going.
Your
It's amazing.
experience in 2008, how did that help here in the last
Yes,
year or two?
Well, in 2008, how many years were you in the bank then?
2008 with Lone Star, I was going on 2 years.
2 years?
Correct.
And at that time, you were doing what?
I was doing analysis. So at the time, obviously, we also had the investment portfolio. So I was analyzing the bonds that we would purchase for the portfolio and do asset liability management. So what is asset liability management? Uh, Assets for banks are mainly what we make money out of, which is loans, bonds, or cash. Liabilities are deposits mainly. We fund ourselves. People come in, they open their accounts, CDs, whatnot. That's how we fund ourselves. And the other component is equity. Shareholders of the bank, they need to come up with an equity portion. It's a regulated industry, so roughly 10% of the asset size has to be money that the shareholders put. They need some skin in the game because most of the Lone Star National Bank is $3 billion. Obviously, not all $3 billion are invested by the shareholders. So we are in a leverage industry. So highly regulated, but that's pretty much what we do. How do we fund ourselves and how do we make money with that? We are in the business of borrowing and lending.
Right.
We make a spread. That's how we make money. And do we pay Ronnie 5%? If we pay him 5%, can I charge Mario 7% or 8%? If he says, no, I'm not going to pay you that, then I got to come back to you and say, no, Ronnie, sorry, I can't
4%.
pay you. So that's...
Everything's being leveraged.
And I'm simplifying it, but there are a lot of things that go in between because rates are not the same. Mario would want a loan for 5 years or 7 years fixed. Now we got to come up and say, hey, what are rates going to do over the next 5 years? Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? What's the economy going to do? So we got to take all those different factors into account and then come up with a rate that we can live with on the loan side and the one we can pay the customers.
Yeah.
We don't want to be upside down. That's what happened to many banks last year. They gave loans or bought bonds fixed for 10 years at 2%, and then they had to pay Ronnie 5% because he went upside down on them. So you could just do the math. 3 percentage points.
It's not good business.
It's not good business.
Right.
And obviously, we were very cautious not to do that. And we're very, I guess, fortunate to be one of the few banks here in the Rio Grande Valley that had a lot of liquidity, and we withstood what other banks were struggling with as far as liquidity. At the time, we had about $800 million in cash. So cash was paying nothing, 0%. So it was a big decision to make.
Losing, right?
Yeah, even 2% on $800 million is going to amount to a big size, $16 million differential. Do we give that up or do we take it right now? And we decided, no, it's not prudent for us to do that because we are locking in for 10 years. A lot of things could happen over the next 10 years. It did.
Yeah.
We didn't know at the time it was going to happen this fast, but it did happen. And a lot of the banks got caught into that. That's the reason why.
So holding the cash was the...
It was a good decision, even though it cost us at the time.
Yeah.
It was a good decision longer term.
I remember you talking to me about this back in...
Because Silicon Valley Bank, I don't know if you guys heard about that.
Yes,
last year in March, it was $100 billion plus in assets. They went belly up, or they were illiquid. Main reason was that.
Yeah.
What happened to them was Silicon Valley Bank, as the name implies, they were mainly focused on Silicon Valley. All these big companies, Hulu's and few others that are tech-oriented, they gave them a lot of money as deposits. So these guys are like, well, we have, I don't know what they had at the time to invest, but it was a big amount. Let's say $2 billion. Let's go buy something because keeping it in cash is earning us nothing. If we go get it and invest it, we would make some money out of that. So they went and did that. Rates went up so quickly. Now, as I explained earlier, they were paying more to fund it than what they were earning.
Yeah.
They became illiquid. When the news came out, everybody started pulling money away. and they said, well, this bank might not make it. It became insolvent. There was a run on the bank. This time around, what was different was you hear about runs on the banks where people line up outside.
Right.
This time it was all electronic, so it happened so quickly. 40, $50 billion in a day. Gone. Very quickly.
So the Vipul for that bank, the Vipul for that bank was like, shit. I think I fucked up.
It must not have been a pretty thing for him to go through because it's very stressful. They didn't have the money. Obviously, the government came in. They shut them down and asked another bank to take over. And then few other banks followed also, not only by buying bonds, but they had bought mortgages. If you remember back then, you guys were selling homes and people were able to finance their mortgages at 3.5, 375, 2 something.
Yeah.
Many banks, like First Republic Bank in New York, instead of selling those to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which are government programs, they kept them on the books. Why? Because they were 3% compared to 0.
Right. The money was free back then.
Yeah, it was free.
Right.
The 30-year instrument, so you got to hold it for 30 years. That's where they went wrong. Why? Because now rates went up. So they had something on the books earning them 3. They were paying 5, 5.5, 6%. It didn't work out because there's $100+ billion banks, and it just doesn't make sense.
Mistakes like that are
very costly.
Yeah, you can't.
Very costly.
It's hard to get
and
out
it's
of.
very easy to get caught into that, right? Because it was easy money at the time. Why wouldn't you take it? Rates are not going to go up. This is never going to end, kind of a mentality.
As an analyst, looking at the markets, you have to you pay really close attention to the history of how things have played out in the last 20, 30 years.
Correct.
And then you also have to have some kind of
intuition
on, okay, if it did that based on certain factors, we're anticipating that it's going to do this.
Correct. And we run a lot of simulations at the bank. So part of the asset liability management is we have softwares that we use to quantify what would the impact be to banks' earnings if this happened. What if it didn't happen? What if this happened? So a lot of...
You're able to do that.
Correct. A lot of what if scenarios that we run. In fact, we are running like 7 different scenarios right now. What if this scenario panned out? What if that scenario panned out? What if this didn't happen? What if the opposite happens? So there is a lot that goes in between. It sounds simple, but there is a lot that goes behind the scenes to come up with strategies. It's not always easy because you're trying to forecast the future.
Right.
Nobody can forecast that, but we can plan for it and say, what's our risk tolerance? How can we mitigate this? And a lot of people might say, you know what, this might never happen. But the one scenario that you never thought would happen, if it does, it's the one that's going to hurt you the most.
Yeah. And so are we willing to take that risk?
Correct.
Right? So then you start to moderate.
Correct.
How aggressive you can be.
And these times right now, that on these current times, is there a particular maybe date and time that you can backtrack to, that you can say maybe, things that are happening politically, things that are happening, with the border. I recently saw that California now is they're gonna pass some sort of bill within California, the state, where the illegals that are coming over are gonna be getting zero interest rate, $150,000 in order to help them with the closing costs on a house. Like all these factors, we had COVID. How do you try and navigate into the future, knowing with everything that's happening presently? How do you look back? Because right now we were talking about 2008, and you had asked a question. I'm sorry that I interrupted on that one, but I don't remember exactly how your question was. But when you went through 2008, I mean, a lot of people were hurting.
Yeah,
a lot of people in the construction industry were hurting.
Yeah, and good that you mentioned that, because even today, more than 50% of the people that are employed in the banking industry, they do not know what rising rate environment is. because most of them in 2008 were not in the banking industry, or
Right.
those that were, they retired.
Yeah.
So most of the people that are currently in banking, they don't have a practical knowledge of what to do when rates go up.
It was 14 years ago.
Yeah, it was 14 years ago, and it happened so quickly that many people were caught off guard.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, it was a lesson they learned, but paid a good price for that. And if you hear Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of JP Morgan and Chase, they have about $4 trillion in assets under management, the biggest bank in the United States. He always says you got to plan for the unseen, unthought about scenario.
Yeah.
Can you live with that if it happens, even though it might not happen? He recently meaning last year, he said, I'm prepared if rates were to go up to 10, 12, 15%, or I'm prepared if they go down to 0. I know my bank is going to be okay with that.
They've adjusted and made the right moves to be able to handle those different scenarios.
Yeah, so that's pretty impressive when you think about that. But many people back in 2008 obviously did not see that coming. You could have looked back and easily said, yeah, why were people not thinking about this? But it's very hard to make a decision when you're in the moment and foresee stuff
Things
like
are going
that coming.
great.
Yeah, it's like it's
it
amazing.
can't happen. What are you talking about?
This could
Things
not
are
happen.
Going amazing.
Yeah, and that happened, and many banks were taken by surprise this go around also, even though we knew something like this had happened in the past.
It was a matter of time. You
People
kept
forget.
telling me.
Yeah, people forget that things like this could happen.
Yeah. We were due for some kind of recession.
Yeah.
It was way past due.
Correct. We didn't get a recession. Main reason behind that is the government stepped in very quickly. If it wasn't for that, I think the scenario would have been completely different. So technically, we had a recession in 2020. It lasted for about a month. What happened? Why was it so short? The government came in, if you remember, through the various programs, PPP, the CARES Act, this and that. They added close to $7 trillion into the economy very quickly. On top of that, the Federal Reserve, which controls the money supply in the United States, they added another $4 trillion in 3 months.
Into the system?
Into the system. So now we have $11 trillion that came in from pretty much nowhere. Everybody got free money.
That's what everybody here in the Valley was. On time check it.
Oh my God, dude.
You remember those memes,
Dude,
bro?
I remember when people were like, "Hey, have you gotten your check?" I'm like, "No, dude, I didn't get." I remember when all that happened or whatever, and then went to go do taxes. My CPA was like, "You never got your check, did you?" I was like, "That's because I don't have a home." I was just fucking with it, but yeah, dude, like that was wild. It was a wild time.
Everybody got money.
Yeah, everybody had money. It was a recession where nobody lost money.
Yeah.
Stock market was up, housing market was up,
Yep.
jobs were plentiful because the government was paying employers to keep them on salary.
And they were giving loans to the
correct.
They were giving loans to the companies. So if you owned a company, you'd be like, "Oh, I own this company." Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you see is a bunch of Ferraris and Lambos and all sorts of crazy exotic cars because every company's booming with the checks the government sent
It
out.
wasn't supposed to be used for that, but yes.
But it was.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy, bro.
But all that money getting pumped into the economy, inflation obviously blows up.
It was just a matter of time. So inflation works with a lag, right? So when that happened, the Federal Reserve kept on saying it's transitory. It's going to go away. This is not permanent. Why? Because at the time we had COVID, supply chain was disrupted. And they're saying once it opens up, it's going to be fine. What they didn't anticipate was all this money, which had never been pumped so quickly into the economy.
Ever in the history of
never
the
in
world.
the history of United States, had it happened before, was going to be inflationary. So it was just a matter of time, regardless of who the president was going to be, who was going to run the company, inflation was coming.
How did you see that? Like you as you know what you do for the bank, when you're seeing the Federal Reserve do that, like how does that make you feel, knowing what is to come with that action?
So if you remember back in 2008, looking back, it's very clear cut, right? Hey, why would people do this? Why would they buy homes thinking they could flip it and it would continue forever? So something similar was going on this time around. It's hard to see in the moment, but if you understand that this could happen, and most likely will happen, obviously you prepare for that. It might be a year or 2 years before it happens, like I was telling you. And I was probably wrong in my timing as far as a year or probably.
I mean, slightly off, but come on. I mean,
it did happen.
it did.
So
yes.
that's the thing. I mean, to some extent, it's predictable because it's simple math, supply and demand.
Right.
When you have so much supply, demand has to keep up. If not, prices are going to go up.
We have
And-
we have two questions. And I don't, right now that we're on the 2008 topic, I had one that Ulises sent that was posted on the Facebook live chat, and it was from Efren Gomez that according to some models, this year is trending very similar to 2008. Is that what we are treading towards?
In terms of what?
I guess I'm assuming maybe what happened, like how everything stalled.
Yeah, so what's different in my opinion compared to 2008 is labor market is very strong.
Okay.
If you look at the labor market in the United States, anybody who wants a job can easily find one. Nobody's getting laid off. 2008, people were getting laid off quite a bit. Why? Because, again, home prices came down, stock market came down. Employers were affected by all that going on, so they were laying off people. That's different this time around.
Okay.
Whoever wants to have a job can find one. And that's very good because if you look at everything else, there are three main reasons or three main avenues through which people create wealth, most people in the United States. Good jobs, home appreciation, and stock market. All three of them have done well. If you bought a home a few years ago, it has doubled in price.
It's gone up.
It's gone up.
Right.
Stock market last year, it grew S&P 500.
The house I sold you. I want to renegotiate.
So, stock market appreciated 25% last year. It's on pace to do about 20 this year.
Yeah.
So that's good. Jobs, not only people are able to find jobs, but they were able to negotiate the pay that they get. You probably have seen that with your subcontractors.
I'm definitely paying higher labor.
Yeah.
So it was good. All that was good as far as money coming in. And that's what has kept the economy flowing on top of what the government did, $11 trillion. Now people are at a stage where now we don't see as many people wanting to quit because they're afraid of what might come in the future. But that's, I would say, the main difference between now and then. Back then, there was not that big of a government intervention as we had this time around.
For the last 3-4 years, I think the government has been very involved, right, in the economy.
Correct.
And inflow and outflow.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So they followed the model that Japan did in the late 80s, early 90s. If you remember, the stock market in Japan crashed in the early 90s. And by the way, it took them 35 years to recover. So had you invested $1 in late 80s, 89, it would have taken you 35 years to make the dollar back. Because that dollar kept on depreciating. It became pennies.
Yeah.
And it took 35 years for it to get back to $1.
But we're following that model.
To a different degree. What's different?
Whoa.
Wait.
So what happened to Japan, I think we learned from the mistakes. But we are to some extent following what they have done in the past. Japan started this quantitative easing, as it's known in the financial industry.
Okay.
Government getting involved, supplying money, buying bonds. If you look at Japan today, more than 50% of the stock market in Japan is owned by the government. They don't let it fall. If it falls, they come and buy.
Yeah.
And they
Why?
keep it afloat.
They keep it afloat. The same thing. If rates start to go back up, they come in and they bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
So the government is very involved. Why? Because they can't afford for the free market to take over. Main difference between the United States and Japan is obviously we learn from the mistakes. It has been 30 plus years that we
To
have
study,
seen
yeah,
what
to
to
study.
do, what not to do,
Yeah.
how to do it differently. And two, population growth. Japan is losing population. People are getting older. They're dying at a higher rate than people are being born. They don't want to have, if you go to Japan, some parts have 80, 90-year-olds as an average. United States, even though, like you mentioned earlier in California, immigration coming over, legal and illegal immigration has supported the United States to some extent to avoid what's happening in Japan. Let's not go too far. Look at Canada. Canada has a very small population. They're struggling to keep that population. Why? Because local people are not having as many kids. Only way for them to have a sustainable economy
Just to get involved.
is to have immigration,
Influx.
influx of people from outside. United States has been the biggest beneficiary of human capital and financial capital. We are beneficiaries. It comes
Yeah.
into the United States. We should not let that stop. Obviously, it has to be organized. It has to be in a legal form. But that's the main difference compared to Japan. And I think that's a big difference maker. Why? Because people that come into the United States from wherever, India, Mexico, China, they want to have the kids here.
Mm-hmm.
The young people that come for their studies, find a job, they have kids. That's obviously, my son was born here. I'm an immigrant in the United States. He obviously is going to have kids, and that's going to have a multiplying effect.
Yep.
So that's the difference compared to Japan. Japan was very close for 200 years. They didn't want any immigration. They didn't want people going in there. So you felt like a foreigner. You felt like, oh, where am I? And I think that's a major
There has to be some healthy
Correct.
immigration, right?
Correct. Because that was the downfall of Japan. And China, if you look at China, what has happened to them also, few years back, you were only allowed to have one child.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have more. So
Right.
China, India, mainly all Asian countries, they prefer to have males. It's a male-dominated country.
It was like you had to have a male first, right? It was like your firstborn or preferably or something
Correct.
like that.
So obviously you can't control that. So what they did was, if they found out it was going to be a female, they obviously did not want to have that female. They would wait for the male.
Yeah.
At the time, the thinking was, we cannot sustain the population growth if it continues at this trend. So let's limit that. They didn't think it through. 20, 30 years go by, they realize we have a disproportionate number of males in the economy. Now, how are they going to reproduce?
That's wild.
There is a high rate of homosexuality
Yeah.
because of that. And
There's a high rate of like depression, people committing suicide.
correct. And I was in China earlier in March, and I was speaking to the guide, and I said, so how are you guys coping? He said, if you have a daughter, she's going to be a millionaire. I'm like, what do you mean? She can pick who she marries.
Yeah.
As a condition of marriage, she can say, I want a car, I want an apartment, I want a house,
Si
I
no,
want
no.
this. Si no, no. Clearly. And
Hey, they try to do that here too.
They try.
to a different level. But you could always go into Mexico, cross the border. That solves your problem. But in China, it's a big problem because now family formation is hard.
Yeah.
They're not having kids. And so the government now, they flipped completely, and they're saying, Mario, if you want to have a kid, we will pay for the delivery costs. We will pay for the hospital costs. We will pay for the any expense related
Right.
to bringing up a child, daycare free, whatnot. But people are saying, why would I want to have a kid now? I want to enjoy my life. I want to get a stable job. I want to travel.
Yeah.
So that backfired on them. So immigration, even though obviously it's a hot topic right now, is productive if it's controlled. We need that as a country. And as I mentioned earlier, the likes of Albert Einstein super brain. They came into the United States, obviously made us a better country.
Of course.
Right.
We want those people to come in. If you look at, not because I'm from India, but if you look at the tech companies, most of the mega tech companies have Indian CEOs.
Yeah.
So they're benefiting from that. Obviously, those are examples of legal immigration. They're going to have kids here. They're going to support the economy. And that's, on the long run, very good for the
country.
We need that.
Yep.
We need immigration to continue.
You know, right now
being
that
in the
go for it.
being in the area that we're at, obviously Mexico's our next door neighbor.
Yeah.
How is that economy affecting us now? Because I know Mexico's growing.
Yeah, so very, very good question. Mexico is going through a very unusual time right now, in my opinion. Nearshoring, you probably have heard about
heard of
that.
it.
So when we had COVID and all the supply-related bottlenecks that were taking place,
Yeah.
and the tariffs that were put on anything imported from China, most companies moved their operations to Mexico.
Right.
Why? Because it's so close to the U.S. Canada has the NAFTA, or now it's USMCA. So it's easy logistics for them to transfer all those things. And it's close by. We don't have to wait 45 days for the container to come from China or from Asia. So Mexico was a big beneficiary of that. And obviously that has created a lot of jobs, a lot of wealth in Mexico. But it's very disproportionate in Mexico. Those that are very
still,
wealthy,
yeah.
normal people cannot afford a vacation in Cabo, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's reserved for those that can.
Right.
So it's a disproportionate advance, I would say. But overall, it has been beneficial for the common people also, because they have better jobs, more hours worked, and more opportunities. They could go and work at different places. What's going on in Mexico right now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard or read about that. Mexico had an election in summer. The candidate that won is from Morena.
Mm-hmm.
AMLO is from Morena. So basically it's viewed as a continuation. Not only is he won by 60% of popular vote, the second candidate was 30%. So she won by twice the
By
margin.
far.
She was a popular candidate.
No contest.
No contest.
Yeah.
Not only that, what happened was they won the House and they won the Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have pretty much a majority.
Yeah.
They could do whatever they want. And I think they're trying to make some changes which are very unpopular amongst the business community. Biggest one is they're trying to reform the judiciary system. So the judges are currently appointed by career-oriented judges or people that have been in the judiciary system for long. So, for example, if you're a judge, I come work for you, and I learn the trades, and eventually when you're ready to retire or whatnot, you're going to say, hey, Vipul is ready. He should be the next judge to take over my position. So it has been something that has been in place for quite some time. Now, what they want to do is, they said, no, Ronnie, you can't do that anymore. We are going to have Vipul run through the general election and go through popular vote. It's a big deal. Why? Because if I'm from Morena, chances are I'm going to get the votes.
Right.
Because everybody's going to vote for Morena.
Right.
So the worry is that you're going to politicize the judicial system. And if you have a dispute, let's say now we switch roles. I buy a house from you, I sue you, whatnot. And if I happen to know Mario, who is my buddy from Morena, what are your chances of winning against me? Very slim.
Yeah.
So that's a big fear that all these wealthy individuals have. They say, like, how are you going to deal with this? Because and the Morena party has been very popular, and they have been coming up with a lot of the plans oriented towards the lower class, which is not bad. But the business community, which employs that lower class, is worried now.
Yep.
Are you going to give it to them by taking it away from me? And that's a big disparity that's taking place.
It's a drastic change if you
It
think
is a
about
drastic
it.
change.
Because
Another big change that they have proposed, and obviously this has to go through the due process, is they currently have 500 people in the House. They want to cut it down to 300. So, like a chamber of, in the United States, the House of Representatives,
yeah,
they have 500 in Mexico. They want to cut it down to 300. Guess what? Who's going to get the votes?
The Morena group.
The Morena group. Senators, they have, they're going to cut it down by 50%, or that's a proposal. They have right now 128 senators. They want to cut it down to 64. So that's consolidating a lot of power. Why am I bringing that up? It's a great opportunity for the Valley. Why? Because
It's huge.
yeah, a lot of the wealthy individuals are scared and they want to diversify away from Mexico and come into the United States because they're afraid eventually the government is going to get too involved and they're going to tell us what to do, what not to do, and we are going to lose money. They're going to probably even confiscate. Something similar happened in Venezuela. When Maduro came into power after Chavez died, overnight, some business people lost their properties, they lost their businesses because the government came in and said, now it belongs to us. I don't think Mexico is going to go through a route, but the fear is there. A lot of those wealthy guys are scared. We at the bank have talked to a few of them, and one of my hats is I'm also in charge of the international department at Lone Star National Bank, and we have about $150 million in deposits that come from Mexico. So they're scared, and they're like, we want to diversify by coming into the U.S. Why? Because it's a currency hedge also. They want to move away from the peso. I don't know if you guys have seen, peso has been devaluing recently.
Right.
Now it's approaching pretty close to 20, and it was down to the 15 range.
It had appreciated, yeah.
So after the election, it started going back up. And then recently, this might be too technical for the podcast, but what happened was carry trade was unwound. People were borrowing in Japan at 0% interest rates.
Yes.
Rates in Mexico were at 11%. So they're saying, Ron is giving me free money. Mario is paying me 11%. Let me go borrow from Ronnie.
Bring it over
Bring
here.
it over here.
Yeah. Casa de Cambios.
Yes, so something similar.
Can you explain that
Sure.
that to the public a little bit, because it's really interesting and it's something that people honestly do to make more like. Can you explain it? Because I could probably explain it, but I'll explain it the dumb way. You know, like
no, and
Vipul says, "Yeah, I know."
yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I didn't say that.
I just go
So,
golf.
let me take a stab at that. On August 5th, if you guys remember, the stock market, it was a Monday. The stock market was set to open down 3%. Dow was at one point in the futures market down more than 1,000 points. So there was a big panic. Like, what's going on? Is the stock market going to crash? This was August 5th.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
I remember.
And what happened was, it was not related to what was happening in the United States. Many people did not know this. It was happening in Japan, which carried over to the United States. What happened in Japan? Rates in Japan have been at zero for the longest period of time. You might say, why would they have zero interest rate? If you go to Europe, not too long ago, they had zero interest rate. Zero interest rates are a product of deflation. When you fear that prices are continuously going to go down, it's, for example, I won't buy your house if I think I can buy it cheaper next year.
Yeah.
Or I can buy it cheaper a year from now.
Let's use a different example.
Okay.
Don't put it out.
So a car or whatever, a business.
that hurt a little.
You're going to live in this for 3 years. You told me your daughter's going to live here. So
Here,
you
on a
should be
lighter
fine.
note, the house that you did buy from me, Vipul, how much is that one appreciated?
I haven't appraised it because I'm planning on living in it. So yeah,
I don't want to know.
I'm fighting for it to be low with the county. So yeah, so in Japan, rates were at zero.
Yeah.
So what they did was, big corporations like Toyota, Panasonic, Sony, all these Japanese corporations, they have the ability to go borrow from banks in Japan and then come and invest in different parts of the world because those are global corporations. Toyota sells cars everywhere, Nissan, name it, all these Japanese companies that we know of. Rates in Mexico at 11.5%. So they're saying, let's borrow from Japan at 0%, take it to Mexico on almost 12%, risk-free. Why is it risk-free? Because the currency, Mexican peso, was very stable. It was benefiting from all this nearshoring. There was a lot of demand. Why would a currency appreciate? Demand. If the demand for currency goes up, like 1,000 people want to buy this house, obviously the price is going to go up.
Right.
Or it's going to stay where it is. It's not going to fall. So Mexico was beneficiary of stability. So they took money, let's say $1 million, borrowed in Japan. They had to buy pesos in Mexico and make those investments. That trade made them a lot of money. Why? Because they were making 11% risk-free.
Just on the exchange.
Just on the interest rate. And then if the peso appreciates, then it's even more. Let's say if it's 3 or 4% appreciation, now your return is the 12% interest rate plus 3% exchange rate. So that's 15% increase.
Yep.
They killed it.
Yeah.
What happened? Bank of Japan, surprisingly, or to the surprise of many, raised rates. What did they raise rates from? They raised rates from 0.3% to 0.5%. Not much. But if you look at it from a percentage change perspective, it's about a 66% change. What happened? The yen, which is the currency in Japan, appreciated 11% against the dollar. People started taking money from Mexico.
Oh, shit. JK, let's go back.
So they took money and they're like, yeah, let's do this because if they continue raising rates, currency is going to appreciate even more.
Yeah.
So now that 11% they were earning over the year, they lost it in less than a day in currency fluctuation. So Mexican peso came down by 11% because now people were selling the peso, buying the yen. Some of them had also invested in the stock market. People that borrowed in Japan, they had bought NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, and few different stocks. Those were at a high level. So they're saying, let's take the gains. Let's unwind this position we have before it gets too late.
Because we hit some major highs, right?
Yes,
not too long
correct.
ago. Yeah.
We are pretty close to all-time highs. And this far, S&P 500 has had 35 all-time highs.
That's kind of crazy.
That's crazy, and we are not even done through the year.
But at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, history is going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's gotta. The roosters have to come home, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Ronnie, where's your restroom, bro?
It's right here, bro.
I got it.
Yeah.
In the hallway.
It's in the hallway. You're not. Just push the walls.
Okay.
so
On the right.
there was a big thing that took the market by surprise. It happened so quickly. It wasn't related to the economy in the United States. It was unwinding of this trade that had been there for many, many years that made them a lot of money. Now, overnight, because this rate went up in Japan, they started pulling the money.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was
That was the drop.
There was a drop. And then market realized, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
It's just Japan.
Yeah, we see what's happening. And therefore, it went back up.
It came
so
back.
it recovered. The S&P 500 more than recovered what it had lost on that day.
Yeah. And it is back right now to where it was.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's
Although I
slightly,
think it took a hit.
Yeah, it's slightly higher.
Yeah.
Today it took a hit, but it has been going up and down. And that was what happened earlier. But it's very interesting to see how all these different components work into the economy.
The different countries,
Correct.
it affects everything.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it affects the rates here in the United States. And now with the Federal Reserve talking about cutting rates, the dollar has depreciated because they're saying if the return is not that high, currently they're getting 8-9% by investing in the United States. If the dollar is going to depreciate 5-6%, now I'm only going to earn 2% net. let me go find a better opportunity elsewhere. So if you look at what has happened recently since the Fed said we might start cutting rate in September, the dollar has depreciated against the major currencies, against the euro, against the pound, against
Yeah.
the yen. So Mexico, going back to Mexico, has been hit hard from two fronts. Politically, what I mentioned, and economically, what I mentioned also. And if there is more fear that's not abated soon, peso is going to depreciate further,
Even more so.
because they're going to come and say, you know what, let me cash out my positions, let me diversify, sell pesos, buy dollars, let me buy euros and other currencies and go invest in those countries. So we in the valley should see some of that money come over the
Some
border.
influx, yeah.
Correct.
And if you're planning on buying in Mexico, wait up a little bit.
Yeah, and in fact, this week, the government, AMLO, is going to give up his office in October. The new president comes in October.
Right.
So they want to make sure that all these changes that they want to make are going to be in effect before he leaves.
Yeah.
So in fact, this week, they came back and said, yeah, as far as the judiciary system change, it's going to be a go. They're
Yeah.
going to put it to vote.
Yeah.
And since they have the majority, or pretty close to the majority in the Senate,
They're-
chances are
yep.
It's
that
gonna
it's
happen.
going to pass. Unfortunately, for the poor people or for the common people, it's not going to benefit them much, even though it's been promoted as it's going to be good, it's going to take away corruption, but it's taking it from Mario and giving it to Ronnie.
Right.
And I'm the one who decide who gets it, kind of
Yeah.
a thing.
Right.
Another major change they want to make is any government employee would not be able to earn more than what the president deems to be the salary. So if I think you should only be earning $100,000, I'm going
up
to
to
tell
you.
you that's it. If I say, oh, Ronnie, I like you, I'm going to pay you $150,000, then that's my discretion, or $50,000.
Yeah.
So you might be like, why would I want to be at the mercy of this guy who can tell me how much I can earn or not?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of unknown that's going on in Mexico right now politically.
Yeah.
And then they want to make some changes that are going to consolidate power. And it's easier for them to pass it because they have the House and the Senate are very close to having the majority in the Senate also. They're very shy of few votes, but I think they can
It's
work.
probably going to happen.
Yeah, it's probably going to take place.
And that government is going to be in place because I think their elections
They elected for 5 years.
5. Yeah.
And they also have the rotating system like we do. Every so often they have rotation on the Senate and the House. But Morena won by a major
It's a
landslide.
big spread
It's a
to
big spread.
to make.
So even if they
up.
give up ground, chances are they're going to contain
Yeah.
the votes that they need for what's needed.
So bringing it back to the United States,
Yeah.
right? Before we get into the Valley,
Yeah.
how is that going to affect? Where's the United States now, health-wise, economically?
Economically, as I mentioned, stock market is pretty close to all-time high. House prices, they keep on appreciating. Job market is pretty strong. You have seen some increase in unemployment rate, but that has been a product of more people wanting to come into the labor market, not because companies are laying off people.
Okay.
So it's not due to layoffs. It's mainly because more people are coming in, either through immigration or people
They're
just
finally
got-
just, I should probably get a job.
Yeah, I should probably get a job.
Oh, my COVID check is ran out.
Yeah. So now they're wanting to find jobs, and unemployment rate, even though it has gone up recently from a low of about 3.5, 3.6 to about 4.3, 4.4 now.
healthy.
Historically, it's very low. Anything below 5% was considered to be pretty
Great.
tight labor market. What we are seeing is obviously the pay increases, they have stabilized. If you go back a few years, on an average, people were getting paid 4 or 5% more year over year to keep up with inflation.
Sure.
Now inflation has come down and it's around 3.1, 3.2%. The Federal Reserve wanted to be at 2%. and perhaps it's going to take some time before it goes down to the level they want. But they're saying, you know what? Unemployment rate, on the other hand, has been going up. If we squeeze this too much, we might break it.
Right.
Before we break it, let's ease up.
Who's at the helm right now? Who's making those decisions?
So it's Jerome Powell. He's the Federal Reserve chair, but he has other people that helps him make the decision. So they have districts. Our district here is Dallas. So there is a local president who represents Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and so there are about 12 of them that
Throughout
are
the country.
Throughout the country, and then they have 3 or 4 more people. So a total body of about 20 people decide what to do with that, and they represent different regions. So the one from Dallas would say, "Hey, I see this in Texas. You shouldn't do that. You should do this." Or the guy from New York might say, "Hey, I see this, whatnot." So they all come from different parts of the country, and they give their opinion about what's happening in there. In fact, we met with the Federal Reserve president from Dallas here in the Valley last week.
Well,
She had come down, and she wanted to know what's going on and how could they help and whatnot. So that's how it's decided.
yeah. The decisions that are being made, in your opinion, right decisions.
Yeah, I think they have done a good job. Obviously, it's a hard thing for them to manage. The United States economy is pretty close to $29 trillion. It's not a baby. It's huge. And labor force is about 168 million people. So for them to, it's a balancing act. And in the past, they haven't had it right. They have been blamed for keeping rates too high and not acting soon enough. They call them behind the curve, that the Federal Reserve is behind what needs to be done. And there has also been the notion of when they take rates up, they take them in locksteps. So they take the stairs to go up, but they take the elevator to come down. Why? They have broken something. In 2008, when they took rates up from 1% to 525, it took them about 2 years to get there, from June of 2004 to June of 2006. But when they dropped them, it took them less than 5 months, because we had 2008 was a pretty bad recession.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was mainly caused by rates going up. And then in 2018, which was the last episode, they started raising rates in 2015. Slowly took it up, not too high, to 225. But then they dropped them because COVID hit. Obviously, COVID was not economy related. It was not monetary policy related. But those have been the last few instances where they take it up and they come down. So the fear now is, would they have the need to do that? I don't think we are there, because it's more balanced.
Yeah.
I don't think rates are going to come down like they did in the last few cycles, because something was majorly broken. The only thing that could go wrong, which would catch them by surprise, would be unemployment rate goes up, people lose their jobs, and it breaks, which is obviously not in the forecast at the moment.
Any unknowns that you've considered that could affect the economy?
Yeah, so obviously housing, you guys are into that. One thing that probably should be paid attention to is, right now the tight supply in the housing market has benefited the sellers. They can ask for the prices, even though they're moderating or they're coming down slightly. What I see that could be a problem is, let's say rates do come down, and those people like me that bought a home in 2020, I locked in a super low rate. Even though somebody paid me $500,000 more, I'm probably not going to sell it. Why? Because now I got to go buy another house. You're going to charge me much more for that new house. That's one. And two, I'm going to pay a much higher rate. So it's a double whammy, right? Not only I'm paying more on the house, but I'm having to pay more on the interest rate. What could happen is, if rates do come down, now I might have a different perspective. Let me sell the house, make the $500,000, because I could go buy a new house and pay lower rates. So right now the supply from existing homes is contained.
It's still on our side.
It's on your
on our
side.
favor.
But if rates do come down, that dynamic could change, and people might say, you know what, now I'm willing to sell my house, and that supply would go up. Now
Right.
you're having to compete with houses that were not in the market before.
Right.
So that's something that you guys need to, I guess, pay attention to. So
That
even
there's a number, right? Like there's a number that you,
Yeah.
or a range where if it gets to a certain point, that's something that we should fear.
Yeah, so what's interesting right now is 40% of homeowners, they owe zero on the house. They own it outright.
40%.
40% in the United States
Wow.
do not have a mortgage.
Wow.
They own
That's
it
awesome.
outright. So the other 60%,
How does that compare to historically?
historically high.
Yeah.
So what has happened is obviously the population is aging, and as you age, you have made more money over the years.
Paid off.
You paid off. And that's what people have done when rates were super low. They said, why would I carry a mortgage even though it's at 4%? If banks are paying me nothing, let me just go ahead and pay off the mortgage. So they paid it off. And on top of that, home values have appreciated quite a bit. So that's a dynamic that I would say be careful with, because it's a good thing for new properties to have lower rates, but it might not necessarily be that big of a deal when you consider that now you have more supply coming in. And renting market also at the same time, fourplexes are being built and you're getting the rents that you're getting because people can't afford to buy a house. But now if rates are lower and home prices are moderate, why would I pay you $1,300-$1,400 in monthly rent
When I can go buy a house.
when I could go buy a house?
Yep.
So that might change the balance.
So it changes the playing field for sure.
Yeah.
And that's something to look out for.
Yeah.
Because there's people that are still developing, trying to build more fourplexes, and there's also people taking more risk with developing to build more homes, and that's something to look out for. I mean, if you get that drop, then you're gonna have to be fighting.
And I'm not saying that the drop in price would come down.
No.
Even though it doesn't come down,
Yeah.
now you have more competition.
Yeah.
So would you go into a new development knowing that you might take 2, 3, 4 months longer to get rid of the house or the fourplex that you built earlier?
Yeah.
So that changes the equation, or should change the equation, because now you're having to borrow for longer. You might be paying property taxes, you might be paying maintenance or whatever
Right.
is needed with the house. So that's something that I would say that you guys need to take into account. That could happen if rates go down. And rates have come down. Mortgage rates are now closer to 6.5%. And again, they could breach the 6% level. At what point do they start coming in? We don't know. But
Right.
you
That's
would-
the unknown.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
think that would perhaps change the dynamics of how the prices are behaving.
The last time we had a conversation with STBA, we talked about cycles, right?
Yeah.
We talked about residential
Correct,
cycles
correct,
and
yes.
the apartment cycles and the commercial cycles.
Yeah. So we are seeing
Where are we
it-
now?
We are seeing that nationwide. Every time that we have gone through a similar cycle like this in the past, you have shortages of homes. What happens? Multifamily, which is fourplexes, they start increasing the supply. So supply start to balloon. It takes a few years for it to come to the market. So it started a few years ago. I think they are in completion phase now. That supply is going to come into the market. So
Big
now,
time.
so now you're going to compete for the same rent. Let's say you have a older property, a fourplex that's 5 years old or 7 years old or whatever, and you're competing with a new fourplex. Who would you rather pay the same rent to? The older property or the new one?
The new, of
The
course.
new one, because it's new amenities, brand new, whatnot.
Right.
So there is a fine balance. You cannot charge more because they have options. They say, I don't really care about the new stuff because if I'm paying $200-$300 less over here,
I just lower it.
I'll just stay. And then now you're forced to lower it. So that supply is also going to add more competition to the market. And I think we are at that stage where perhaps the supply is at the peak. And we have seen the statistic. We do need affordable housing. How you define affordable, obviously, that's a subjective question. but you can't find a lot for less than $100,000 here in the valley
In
a
the city.
in the city. So
Yeah.
In a good area.
how can you call it affordable when the dirt alone is costing you 100,000? You're not going to be able to. Politically, obviously, there have been a lot of promises that are made, and we don't know if they're going to come to fruition. But promises are that they're going to build more affordable houses, and they're going to support people to get their first mortgage, and make it more accessible for them to get that. How would that play out in the rental market now if people are given those incentives to go buy a house? You that have a fourplex, how are you going to be able to rent it, and what rents are going to be the ones that you ask for?
Right.
There's going to be a big influx in fourplexes here in the valley. That I know for a fact. There's a bunch of subdivisions that got
Approved.
That got approved that are currently being built. Some of them have recently been finished, but it's an excess of inventory.
Yeah. So you guys know this better than I do because you guys are in the industry. But yeah, I mean, you would think it's logical, right? I mean, something that sells, it's like a bakery. If the bread sells, you're going to make more of it.
Right.
Eventually, people are going to say, I want to eat something else, or I want to do something else. Now
I'm tired of the same bread.
Yeah, the demand goes down, and it might be that with the lowering of rates, the dynamic is probably accelerated because now the game has changed. The prices. So I always hear people that are older than me say, we have lived through these rates before. This is nothing new, 7% rates. There was a bargain back when I was growing up. And my question to them was, yeah, it's very true. And I have seen that historically, like you mentioned earlier, I have studied the history. What was the price of your house?
The dynamic was different.
Yeah, so you were paying 10% on a house that was $150,000.
Yes, remember Ober Homes back in the day was selling them for like $80K.
Yeah, so there you go, $100,000 to $150,000. 10% on that is a different math than 10% on $500,000. Today, 42% of people's average earnings go towards housing cost. 42%, roughly half, or very close to half. Think about that.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, and the normal, traditional way of looking at that would be it should be no more than a third.
Right.
Right now, we are 12-15% over. How can you bridge that gap? You make more money. What are the chances of you getting more money in the tune of about 12 to 15% increase in your pay raise when the economy is slim?
Yeah.
So something has to give.
Something's got to give.
And the dynamic is different. And again, as I said, it might take 3-4 years, but that's a high probability occurrence if rates are lower.
Yeah.
So you should take that into account and say, how do I prepare for this? And if it doesn't happen, great.
Yeah.
You continue making the money you're making. But if it does happen, you're prepared for it versus being caught by surprise. And that would be, I guess, something I would do if I were in your shoes.
Yeah, take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Honing it back down to the valley, right? Because this is where we're at, and all our listeners are here. Our economy isn't like the rest of the United States.
Correct.
Right? And we've always talked about that. What should we expect here in this area as far as the economy is concerned?
Yeah, so it's...
is it healthy? Are we healthy now?
Yeah, I think the valley is pretty healthy. We have seen the influx of immigration and good immigration because we have seen, even at the bank, we have hired people from outside. We have people that work with us that came from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, New York, other places. They come here and they are getting paid well. So they will come and contribute to the economy in the valley. They'll go eat at the restaurants, they'll consume, whatnot.
Right. Buy our homes.
And they'll buy the homes. So there has been a big positive impact to that. How much of that continues, we don't know. But valley as a whole is a growing place. One good thing about the valley is the population is pretty young. If you look at the population, most of them are around 25%. 25 years, excuse me, when you weight the average of people living in the valley. fairly young compared to other places
Right.
where it's older people.
Yep.
So what's good about that? Consumption is going to be stable. Back in the days, we would see that Mexican shoppers would make up most of the economy here in the valley. Now that's not the case. Local consumption has taken over. Local people are spending more and more. Obviously, what we struggle with is retaining our youth in the valley. My son, he's an 8th grader, middle school, but I'm afraid once he goes to college, or your daughter who might go to college, would she want to come back to the valley? We need to make sure that she does come back
Yeah.
to the valley.
Well, yeah, and we all kind of have to do our part so that
Yeah.
the valley's a place where people want to
Live.
not just move to,
Correct.
but more importantly, stay.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Don't leave.
So we need to do that, and
Yeah.
we need to, and I think we have done a great job. When I moved here in the valley in 2006, it was a different place. There was not much to do. And honestly, the first 2 years, I was very bored. I mean, weekends, I didn't know what to do. I would stay home, watch a movie,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do more. Now we have more options, more diversification as far as entertainment. Quality of life has gone up. So that's important for us to continue improving on. And one of the good things that our chairman of the board at the bank, Mr. Alonso Cantu, he has personally invested quite of his wealth locally to make sure
That the
we-
quality goes
the
up.
quality goes up. The-
Entertainment, right? The Vipers.
yeah,
so-
the Vipers. He used to own the Toros, and the hospital has attracted so many doctors into the valley that you have benefited
Smart
from.
minds, right.
Correct. Smarter guys. They're getting paid very well. They're going to spend over here. Hopefully, they'll have kids here that
Yep.
would contribute to the economy. So those are the kind of things that we need to collectively think. Even though we might be competitors, like I might compete with you, not that I'm in the housing market, but collectively we need to think about the valley, because this is our playground.
Yeah.
How do we take care of it so more people can come and play
Make it a
here?
better place to live.
Correct. And I think that's going to be very important for us. One of the major things that I see as far as the challenge is water, more so for you guys.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and the valley, as you know, needs water, and
been
right
through a drought.
now, it's in a drought. And how do we sustain all this growth that's taking place? Mostly, it's impermeable surface. Before it was dirt, you would retain the water. Now you're putting concrete on top of it, tar on top of it. That
Right.
also affects, and that's why we
The
are feeling-
retention.
you play golf, now you go out. It's not the same when I was playing golf in 2008, 2009. It's warmer because the climate has gone up also. Why? Because we have a drought. Two, we have more construction that has taken away from absorbing the effects. And water supply is going to be key for a sustained, developed
It's
valley.
this constant, like these factors are constantly changing and moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you predict?
Every
It's really hard.
action has a reaction.
You
Everything.
can't, yeah, you can't. But I think what you can do is STBA and other alliances can present a united front, talk to your lawmakers, talk to your representatives, talk to whoever to make sure we get some sort of an assistance from state government, from federal government, from local government, because we need that. And I think it's going to be impactful for your business also. You cannot
Absolutely.
constructing at this rate if you don't have a stable supply of water.
Yep.
Imagine them telling you, hey, Ronnie, you can't water your front yard or backyard more than once a week. That's what's happening in California. Or if you go to Las Vegas, they have stones because they can't afford to keep the greenery in place.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to take away
But
from
just-
your business.
Just concrete. If
Yeah.
Just concrete alone. 57. Let's go. Shout out to the guys from 57 and every concrete company here in SCBA. They had a workshop at 57 Concrete, and they gave us a tour of their mine, their facility area, and everything. And the most important, he said, the most important thing was his water. And they had excavators. They were excavating. They had backhoes trying to dig water out from the ground because of the lack of rain.
Yeah, and it's
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It's shocking to have seen what happened to Monterrey last year. I don't know if you guys know, but Monterrey, they could not take showers. They were limited to 1 or 2 hours a day where they had running water. Throughout the whole day, they did not have water. So just imagine that. Now, how big of an impact that's going to have on the economy. If you go clubbing, you can because you might be stinky. You don't want to go.
Right.
You won't play golf because you go sweat. You can't take a shower when you come back.
Right.
So, and you don't want to stay in the furniture after that. So stuff like that has a
It has an
multiplier
effect.
effect.
Yep.
And those are the things that I think collectively we as stakeholders in the community, we need to be more mindful of and present a united front to make sure there is a sustainable solution that's put into place. Those things are not easy to do. It's not like you can turn a switch and it's something that's going to take 5-10 years. But as the valley grows, like you asked earlier, I think the valley is going to continue growing. How do we sustain that growth? We can come to a point where it's like, oops, now we have...
Oh, we forgot we're going to need water.
The other day, one of the I train jiu-jitsu, and now my boy Ulises started going to the class, right? I finally got him to go, right? And shout out to Efrain, he's also started going. But one of the things that I wake up really early. I'm up by 4:45. The alarm goes off. By 5 o'clock, I'm out of bed. By 5:30, I'm on the road. By 5:45, I'm through the door. By 6 o'clock, we're training. And that's Monday through Friday. And one thing that I came across I'm going down Cage, right? I'm going down Cage to Old Business 83, and Cage was blocked off, right? That underpath was blocked off because of the construction. So I had to go to the right, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm trying to find a turnaround. I never came across a damn turnaround. I had to go all the way to where Costco was to turn around and then come back down Old Business 83. And as I was driving, well, the good thing is the greater population sleeps at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you can see that once you're waking up every day and you're seeing that, and you come out of the gym or whatever you're doing that early, you come out and then you see all this traffic and you're like, okay, the world's alive.
Yeah.
You know, it gives you a different perspective.
Sure.
But as I was driving, some voice in my head was like, this growth is just the beginning. When I saw the expressway, how spread it was opened.
In fact, studies have been done. Rio Grande Valley is one of the fastest growing regions in the state of Texas. And the state of Texas had taken notice of that. That's the reason why they have passed all those spending bills to expand the highways and whatnot, because they see
the growth.
5-10 years from now, it's going to be quite a bit. It's going to become like what's between Austin and San Antonio now. If you see that growth, constant construction.
Yes, sir.
I think that's something that would come here to the valley. I wouldn't be surprised if it came.
Yes, sir.
But again, I think it needs to be sustainable, and it bodes well. We would attract more people if we had better quality of life.
Of course.
Yes.
And I think we are heading in the right direction.
You said the lady, that the president of the Federal Reserve in Dallas.
Yeah.
She came down and asked
Lori
how
Logan.
yeah. Lori Logan.
Gotta get her on the podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to. She asked what she can do to help, right? Our area.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, money would be the biggest thing.
Just said, Vipul said, tráeme un cheque.
Can you print a little bit more money?
But she said, I can't do that. Ask me for the next thing.
What else you got?
So one of the things that I personally was interested in, I said, we don't have much economic data that's very local. We get a lot of data from the United States.
We talk about
nationwide, statewide, but how about the valley? If you guys truly believe that we are one of the fastest growing regions, you should invest in it now. And there are different people doing different things. If you give us the research, we can all focus on and say, you know what, this is the best use of our resources collectively.
Yes.
As a region, we are going to invest in this, or we're going to do this,
Yeah.
we're not going to do this, whatever the case might be. Data is very important, and we don't have
Coming
that.
from an analyst, of course.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we don't have that over here. That's centralized.
Yeah.
We at the bank, we have tried very hard to form partnerships in the past, and we said, you know what, even if it means us paying money to contribute towards the research that benefits the whole community, we all for it. But we haven't had much luck. We need somebody like the Federal Reserve to come in and fill that void. They have the resources, they have the analysts, they have the PhDs, they
Well,
have the means.
We had Mr. Mr. Garcia, no?
Mr. Garcia.
I'm having the mayor of Edinburgh.
Oh, uh-huh.
So we had him on the podcast,
Yeah.
and he spoke.
Ramiro Garza.
Ramiro
Yeah,
Garza,
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Garza.
Yeah.
So excuse me on that. Mr. Ramiro said that they were going to. That one of the reasons that we don't have big corporations that come and put their factories here in the valley was because the valley had never been looked at as a whole census
Correct.
together.
Yeah.
So it's always been looked at like, McAllen's McAllen and Far is Far and Mission is Mission. But he was saying something about where now it's going to, I don't know when it's going to start, but he had mentioned on the podcast that it's going to be one collective group.
Yeah. So I think one of the major developments that we have seen here is RMA, Regional Mobility Authority. And what they did was the projects that you talked about on construction, they presented a united front and said, don't look at us as if we are Brownsville, McAllen, Rio Grande City. Look at us as if we are a region. How would you allocate money, funding to this region that's growing vastly? If you go fight that fight individually, McAllen is only 100,000, 120,000 population. They would care less about a small city like that. But if you get united, and now we speak as a united voice that represents about 1.5 million people in the valley, that's a different calculation.
It's
also.
because nothing separates. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like there's no real separation if you think
Correct,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean, right now we're in Edinburgh. I'm gonna drive right down. I'll be in North McAllen.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
It's
think
insane.
that's something that's well noticed, and people are being more mindful of that to present the valley as a whole versus individual cities. Those efforts in the past were made but not fruitful. Now they're realizing that if we go as a united front, we would probably get more attention, we would get more funding. So it would be good every time you guys talk with whoever, as far as the lawmakers are concerned, the mayors, you should encourage that and say, hey, you might build a house in Brownsville. You might build a house in Starr County. So your playground is the valley. You're not
Yep.
just here in McAllen or Edinburgh.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we need to definitely do a little bit more on that front.
Yeah.
Bring some of those guys in and continue talking about that, because the last time we talked about it
Yeah.
was with Mr. Garza.
Mr. Garza.
Yeah.
Oh,
But what's happened since then?
yeah. It
We
would be
don't- We
good.
don't know.
And he's very active with us.
Yeah.
He's very active with us.
He'll probably help you out. I mean, if you guys obviously present. At the end of the day, we live here, right? I
Right.
mean, all of us need bankers, hospitals.
We all need each
you
other.
guys, we need each other.
Yeah.
So we need to present a united front, and I think that would go a long ways.
I agree.
Well, I can definitely say that at least every member is very grateful with Lone Star, and very grateful with all the support that y'all give us throughout the year.
We're happy to help.
You guys are big shout out to everybody from Lone Star, from Mr. Canturo, Ismael, to Sebi, to yourself, Mr. Danda, everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think this is something that I have lived over the 19 years I have been at the bank. The founders are all from the valley. They take a lot of pride. We are one of the biggest minority-owned banks in the whole country, and we take a lot of pride in
I love that.
because we want to support the people that we have in the community.
Yeah.
And therefore, any resources, anything that we could do to help the community grow, obviously it's going to help us all.
Yeah.
And it's going to, like it says, all boats are risen when the tides go up. We
Absolutely.
want the tide to go up.
Yep.
And
One of the most important lessons that I've learned recently, It came from Mr. Cantu. We were having conversation, and he goes, that business owners make the mistake in thinking that anybody can do the job of their employee.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that is the biggest mistake people do
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner. He's like, they think that their employee could be easily replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, especially when an employee is doing a good job.
Yeah, and obviously it adds.
I was like, damn.
it adds.
And you
to
had
it-
mentioned that to me. Remember that? That Julio says that there's a value in a person and the work that a person does. And sometimes people like owners,
Yeah.
they see someone doing a good job and they think, oh, well, since he's doing a good job, somebody else can do the same
Yeah,
good job.
you might as a employer, you might think, hey, why would I pay Mario more if I could get Ronnie to do his job? But that's short-lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it from a longer perspective, how are you going to attract the guy from Wisconsin to come down here when they see this dynamic playing out?
Mm-hmm.
So you might see a short-term gain, but longer term, we are not going to prosper
Yeah.
as a community, and,
Yeah.
and that's probably something that we need to change.
Invest
also.
in the human resource.
Yeah, and that's what's needed. I mean, we have so many smart kids here in the valley that are attending Ivy League school. One of my employees, her son, just got accepted to MIT.
Nice.
We want him to come back
Yeah.
once he graduates.
Of course.
Will he have the opportunity to apply his knowledge? That's
Here.
a question.
That's going to be what we need to work on.
That's
right?
correct.
To
That's
bring
correct.
those companies down so that
Because
these
the
kids can come
brain
back.
power is here.
Yeah.
And
I
as
mean, you guys are helping my brother.
Yeah, so
They're helping my brother. My brother's going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And they're helping him get through some anesthesiology stuff. And you guys are like, yo, as soon as you're done, we want you to come right back.
Yeah.
So he had reached out and said, hey, you're his dad, and said, could you help him? I have no interest in medicine, or I'm not going. I said, yeah, sure. I mean, we want the kids to be here.
Mm-hmm.
We want the community to prosper, and that's a longer-term goal of obviously the bank, and we do that. Most of our lending is done here in the valley. Most of the grants that we get are invested in the valley. We give a lot of donation to a lot of charities and school districts and whatnot. Mr. Cantu himself, he's very involved in educating the population here in the valley, or support education. VAMOS, which is an organization that he's a chairman of, obviously is very supportive of education, because that's going to be the key going forward.
Education is.
Yeah.
And this growth will be exponentially more if we invested in that. We made it more sustainable.
Yeah.
We provided the resources. And again, I have been here for 19 years, and I want to be here for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You like it here.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
It's a great place to live.
yeah, it is. I mean, we are somewhat secluded from rest, but that's a beauty by itself, right?
It's its
Yeah.
own place.
Yeah, it's its own place.
Yeah.
I love the valley, and we talk about this all the time on the podcast.
All
man.
the time.
You know, being from down here, obviously we take pride in
Of
that.
course.
And as we see our area grow, even more pride, because man, we've seen it. We've
Yeah,
been here. We've
yeah.
been a part of it.
Yeah.
No, I have been fortunate enough to travel the world, and every time I come back to the U.S., I always say this, and I believe it: there is no better country than the United States.
Yeah.
I have lived in different countries. I have traveled to different countries. There is no better place than the United States. And the valley, with all the different things, dynamics that go on, it's a very unique place also within the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
love
really
that.
you really appreciate it when you've lived in other areas.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah. And we might complain about inflation, but I was in Europe not too long ago. I paid £5.50 per gallon
Shit.
of gas.
Yeah.
Pound is at 135, close to
Yeah.
135 right now.
$8, $7.
Yeah, and we complain about $3 over
Yeah.
here. I mean, gas prices are high. I mean, you get a different perspective when you travel and say, like, we have it good over here. We want it to be the best country in the next 25 years, next 30 years.
Which is why it's really important to travel too, right?
Yeah,
You take your kids out,
Correct.
take them to other places,
That's
take to other countries,
Yeah.
other cities.
You remember what the gas was in Cabo? A gallon?
I don't, because I didn't.
They had it at $18.
18.
No, I thought it was pesos. I was like, is that
El
18?
litro. El litro.
Yeah, liter probably is 18 pesos.
The litro. How many liters are in a gallon?
3.75.
3.
Okay.
Pinche way.
Yeah.
Pinche Vipul. I didn't know this stuff all the time.
So
3.75, so times 18 pesos, 18 basically $1.
Yeah,
So it's
I-
like 375. Wasn't that crazy?
Oh, that's
$4
not crazy. Well, maybe I read it wrong.
yeah, they price it in liters, and they don't want the higher price. That's why they post the liter price. They're smart. They don't want people to say, "What? I'm paying 100 pesos for a gallon."
Yeah.
They might say, "Oh yeah, I'm paying a little bit for the gallon." So it's psychological also.
I tripped out. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Nah, but
This is crazy.
it's a great place to live. The valley is very affordable, and obviously it has become expensive recently, but it's still very good compared to elsewhere.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I love it.
Man, what a podcast.
Yeah. Let's not wait so long next time, right? we need your insight. I think it's extremely important, especially, that because we're running this organization, we are in this business, and
We
the
live
housing industry is,
we live-
is kind of
yeah.
a big part of our
Of
economy.
course.
we live this life of real estate and whether people know this or not, we are very, very involved with our organization. We are in communication with our members. At least I am every day.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I am so involved, and it's I love the valley, man.
Yeah,
like I can't explain it. Like
it has to be a healthy competition, right? Like, I mean, I might want to beat you on the field of play,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, I mean, we all play on that field.
Yeah.
We
You-
need to.
You're
be
only
better.
going to get better if I get better.
Correct.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you stay stagnant.
yeah, yeah.
So collectively, we need everybody to
Yeah.
prosper, and that's a goal. And I think that's one of the things that I think the decision makers throughout are planning to where we become more of a place that attracts talents and keeps talents.
Yeah.
Because like Mr. Cantu, he was telling us recently, they attracted so many doctors and they're paying them well.
Mm-hmm.
We would want those doctors to come here and not just make that money and leave. We
Stay.
want them to
Stay.
stay here
Yeah.
and
Buy a home
correct.
and enjoy living here.
Yeah.
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 That's what
So-
we're working on.
But that's a great mindset, and having people like yourself on a podcast that is viewed by people like us and in the industry, and giving us a different perspective of how you all are thinking, and thinking that if we all do better, we all make more, everything around us will go better. We'll go and be better.
Right. In what we know, right? And so, like, for example, all I know to do is how to build a house.
Yeah.
And so how do I contribute to keeping people here? Well, let me build a cool house.
Yeah.
So that people like living in it, right?
Correct.
They're going to spend most of their time at home.
All
Right.
of us have to do our part. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to do our part.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. What a great podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Of course.
Brother, anytime.
Well,
anytime.
we hope to do a part 2, man.
All
You
right.
Y'all
know?
need to invite me golfing next time we go.
Let's do it. We were supposed to go golfing on Saturday. I got to go to the ranch and take care of some work. We got to feed the animals and put water out and stuff like that. I wanted to take Vipul out with me and show him what some hard labor is, but he was like, "Nah, I
You
got
got
go."
boots?
I don't, and I'm afraid of snakes. So
You're good, bro.
No
We
te
need,
pa- no
we
te
need to
pasa
keep you
nada.
free from snakes, please.
yeah.
No me lo lastimen, por favor.
But usually we do golf on Saturdays, and next time we do, we'll get a good round
Yeah,
going.
let's go, man.
We'll
That'd be
get because it gets competitive. You know,
Yeah.
it gets
Yeah.
competitive. The one thing when you start golfing, you're like, you're drinking the beer or whatever, and then when I made a friend, because I consider you a good friend of mine now.
Thank you.
When we made this friendship, and because we talk all the time, right?
Yeah.
And he gave me a different perspective on how to care for my body, how to care for my spirit and my soul by being around him. You know, for people that don't know, you're vegetarian.
I don't drink. I'm
He
a
does-
boring guy.
He doesn't drink. So when you
No,
go
that's
golf,
great.
you go golf, you're golfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you start doing that and you start noticing, when you go with your other friends and you put down a couple beers and you're golfing, you're like, it actually really affects you.
You suck.
Yeah. So then you start
Basically.
thinking, like, if this is affecting you hitting a ball,
Yeah.
300 yards. Imagine how much it's really affecting you in the reality around. No, dude, you go on your trips because golf is not easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's a very hard sport. That's why a lot of people don't even want to try it.
Correct.
Yeah, requires a lot of concentration.
That's the beauty about it, right? It
Yeah.
presents you challenges, and it's like if you hit a bad shot, how do you get out of it?
Yeah.
That's where the mind comes in.
Yeah.
Do I want to compound the mistake
Yeah.
and go for the green, where
Or
there's
be
water,
conservative,
or be
right?
conservative?
Yeah.
How do I take this? Let me take my loss. Let
Yeah.
me make a bogey and not go for the green. Stuff like that. So
It's life.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
life. It's life.
it's
Yeah,
nice.
and I take a lot of that and I implement it into my life because, like with jiu-jitsu, it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Who in the right mind is going to wake up that early and put themselves through all this physical pain?
Yeah.
You're learning a full combat sport. You're learning it will teach you how to slam someone on their head. This will for real. It will teach you how to manipulate a body.
Mm-hmm.
If you stick long enough, you'll learn how to manipulate a body and do what you want with a human body. And you think about it, and you take that, and then you add it to the principle of life. Like I could talk to somebody and know when they've never had a hardship, because the way they talk and the way they talk to people,
Yeah.
and the way they show respect. I'll be like, you don't know what it is to get your ass kicked, you know. But it's the same with golf. You know, like you said, you hit a bad shot.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna get pissed off. It's like your day. Something doesn't go your way. What are you gonna do?
Correct.
Keep going.
You just keep going.
You got to keep going.
You just, hey, let me go get that next shot. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
And that's why we have him, running this organization, right? Because if we can't collect dues, he knows how to slam somebody down on the ground.
You got the right person.
Yeah.
Then.
He's charismatic, and our collection department is on another level.
No, man. We got Elisa's friend now. He's in training. No, but Vipul,
Thank you, man.
honestly, man, thank you so much for coming on.
It was fun. Thank
Very
you.
insightful, brother.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
insightful, always.
Yeah.
I know you were a little nervous. You were like, I don't know what he wanted, like what questions they're gonna ask me, and I'm like, bro, just.
This is the first time I do this, so
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you're natural.
Chill.
I think more people need to listen to your information. I think that it's very important for people like ourselves that don't live in the corporate world and don't necessarily do the economic part of what it takes to run maybe a city or a bank for a city. Need to hear what you guys have to do in order to kind of have an understanding and understand how things work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, like you have mentioned earlier, the bank is there to help you in any way we can.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to benefit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're very grateful with Lone Star, and we're very grateful with every member part of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we want to do is we want to bring true transparency to every member that we have. It's been a road. Ronnie could tell you that this is not easy. It's a lot of how you say give and pull.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of characters that we have to talk to and navigate through and try and make the best decisions, you know. But overall, I think people like yourself and heavy members like the Lone Star National Bank to be one of our front runners. Like you guys have our first membership meeting, you know. You guys got the economic outlook for the year, you know, and it just shows the level of superiority that you have within our region.
yeah.
And we as an organization are very grateful,
Absolutely.
you know.
We are also, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Do we have some?
We got to give some away,
We
right?
gotta get. We're gonna do a little raffle.
At some point, you would think that, right there, right down the hallway, to your right-hand side, just press the walls. One of them's a door.
We're gonna wait on Vipul to come back 'cause since he's our guest of honor, he'll do the whole thing with the raffle. Oh man, what a podcast, bro.
Right? What a podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
We hope that you guys, we Ronnie and I've made a long time friend here with Ronnie.
Of course.
You tend to build a relationship with, you sit down every week and you talk, and, we're in constant communication because one, hey, get on that. How you doing? And all that stuff. But we're always trying to like, hey, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? But
thinking forward,
trying to do this, man, and it hasn't been easy, but it's been very rewarding.
It's been fun, right? I mean, think about all the personalities that you've met just on the board.
Yeah.
Right.
And everybody's very different.
And everybody's very different.
Yeah.
But they're all smart, and they've been successful for a reason, right? There's something about everybody that has made them successful, and you get to hear all those things.
Yeah.
People listening to the podcast get to hear all those things.
Yeah.
Sharpens the mind, sharpens your whole toolbox, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
We really hope that that you all enjoyed this podcast, and we hope to bring you the same quality of podcasts.
Yeah.
We want to give everybody a voice.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely want to give everybody a voice. That was the goal when we started. What number are we on?
45.
Oh, McCoy's.
Oh,
they want 50. They
want 50.
And they're going to do a bunch of giveaways. They're going to do a bunch of, they're like, we want the 50.
But are we getting, who are we getting on the podcast?
I told them I'd do it if we get Megan.
Yeah.
The last McCoy.
Yep. a female running McCoys.
She is one of the
She's a badass.
most how do I say it, respectful persons I have ever came across of. And when you see this person and you see it's like, oh, this is the CEO of McCoy's, like she's a descendant of the McCoy's, like wow.
Yeah.
And the way you carry, you could just see like, okay, you're not there by chance. Like
right.
you were bred to run a major corporation like you are,
Crazy. Let's get her on. That'd be badass.
That would be amazing. 50, bro. 45. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Who would have thought we'd be at 45?
I know. Cool.
Shit. Vipul, 45, bro. This is our 45th podcast.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. So Vipul's going to do the honors of spinning the wheel. So good luck to everybody. Jason Aguilar is the winner. Jason, contact us through Facebook. Send us a message. We'll get you right.
What's he winning?
He's winning a gift card.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to give a gift card, a $200 gift card.
Nice.
For coming on in a celebration that Lone Star came on as a title sponsor for the Gallery of Homes.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. It's the Gallery of Homes, guys, is the last weekend of October, first weekend of November for the people that are interested in going to check out the houses that these builders are going to be displaying. We currently have 20 houses that are going to be in competition. These builders are going to be showcasing their best product forward. In these 2 weekends, you can walk the house. We will have a map. You can go to stba.org. You can sign up to get that map emailed to you, or it could go through text message as well. And depending on the location of where you live, it will give you the perfect map to go to all the houses at the best, at the fastest rate possible. I've been putting a lot of mind into it. The Gallery of Homes is going to be huge this year. We do have more entries than last year. Last year we had 16. This year we're at a solid 20. We do have some potential people that might come in. But right now we're at 20 solid entries. I think only 2 builders have 2 entries in there. They're, so they're all different companies. Everyone has their own product. We invite all the public to come out here and take part of coming and seeing what these guys are building. Ronnie's always said that he pushes people to push the envelope, and builders are artists, and the houses that they build are art. That's why the gallery was first established. And this house proves it. I want to buy this house.
Talk to my daughter.
This is amazing. And we really hope that everybody comes out. Once again, Lone Star has been very generous with the sponsorship that they provided for that, And then there's been others, Hyman Lee, Land Title Texas. We got Sarsky. We got the McCoys. We got Illuminations. We got Capital Insiders. And for all the people that are forgetting, I'm so sorry. But we're all very grateful for your sponsorships. As everybody knows, we can't do it without our sponsors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
You know, but
cool
podcast, man.
Awesome, man. What else? That's it. We're good.
That's about it. Let's go have. I'm hungry.
Yeah, let's go eat.
Let's do it. Laters, guys.
Thank you.